Joining me now on this exclusive Sportskeeda.com interview is a former WCWE star and second-generation wrestler, Shawn Stasiak. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, Ryan. Good to hear your voice. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it seems weird me interviewing you now after all the conversations we've had over the years, but, I'm just checking in with you, man. I know you're a busy guy, and you're on your way to the gym now, but I appreciate you giving us some time today.
No problem, man. I just got some friends coming in from out of town, and I gotta get just conditioning day to day. So we're doing an hour of cardio, and got the big UFC fight. Conor McGregor's making his return, and there's some great fights in that card. I'm a big UFC fan, so thought I'd give them a plug. What the heck?
Yeah, I had to pause when I said WWE because I was used to the days when you were there. It was the WWF. But let's start with how you got into the wrestling business. Obviously, your father is the former world champion, Stan the Man Stasiak. But a lot of people probably don't know you weren't exactly grandfathered into the business. You started out as a decorated amateur, and you're actually two-time all-conference at Boise State.
Yeah, well, my father had, such a huge impact and influence on me getting into the business myself for obvious reasons. I grew up around the likes of, I remember times that my dad would take me to the arenas in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, in Don Owen had his territory, up in the Portland area. And I grew up on guys like Andre the Giant, Roddy Piper, Dutch Savage, Playboy Buddy Rose, Ric Flair would come through, Harley Race, Billy Jack Haynes, the list goes on and on. So I was exposed at a very early age around the business, and of course the business had changed over the years, but as a teenager in high school and then taking up amateur wrestling myself, I still followed pro wrestling, and of course my friends and I we'd idolize certain wrestlers, and we'd be in the gym working out and trying to mimic or imitate other wrestlers that we looked up to. So it kind of inspired me with the days of the mid to late 80s, and I liked the guys that had the larger than life personas, the comic book characters come to life, like Ultimate Warrior and Sting. I like the face paint, the theatrics, and which really ultimately influenced me to create my own alter ego character, which I can get into a little bit more later, Phobia, but which never became a wrestler, by the way. It's not a wrestling character, but it's Dr. Shawn's alter ego. But anyway, I know that's a long response to your question, how I got in the business. And, I had with WWE, they basically took me in after I graduated from college, from Boise State. I just finished my amateur career, and it was, I had a successful career, a two-time Pac-10 runner-up, and, was ranked the top 12 in the country my senior year, and competed in the NCAA tournament. And then, went on to my tryout with WWE, and it just went from there, man. I had those funky dojo camps with Dory Funk Jr. and Dr. Tom Pritchard, and they'd fly guys in like Edge and Test and Christian and Mark Merrill, Mark Henry. There was just probably 50 guys that I was exposed to with these camps, and they sent me to Memphis for about a year actually, worked with Lawler on a local TV show there, in Memphis, and then they called me up for after WrestleMania in 1999, and then that's how I pretty much got started with the pro wrestling business with WWE. They kind of took me in and trained me from scratch. So I only had 10 untrained wrestling matches, pro wrestling matches in Portland the summer prior.
So let me ask you, you talked about how you kind of grew up in the business and that your dad was always surrounded by these big stars. As a kid, were you almost kind of numb to it, the fact that your dad was a celebrity and there were celebrities coming by the house?
Numb to it, yeah, to some degree, but then again, like the business had changed. My experience with the wrestling business was one thing as a kid growing up, but then my dad had retired and I had been removed from it for quite a while, so I watched it from afar, like on TV, during my high school teenage years. And so it was like new characters, a different style. Like it was changing. Right? It was more character based. It was more gimmicky, really, with characters. And I think when I got backstage, though, the first couple times, I was a little bit, of course, you kind of feel like you're walking on eggshells, you're tippy-toeing around. These are some of the guys that I saw, like Undertaker, Kane, Stone Cold Steve Austin. These are guys that were not quite at the height of where they became, but they certainly were, Undertaker at that point had been very established. But my point is I don't know, it was kind of a new world. So on one hand, I was used to being around, the guys in the locker rooms and backstage and having the experience I had years prior as a kid growing up around the business, but it was a different world the time that I, had my own personal experience. So, I think all pro wrestlers, true pro wrestlers, or that ones who become pro wrestlers, are fans. We're all marks to some degree or another. We all looked up to somebody. We watched an era. We were influenced and inspired by it. And we're all fans deep down. And if you're not a fan, I don't think you have any business being in that business. I think you start out by being a fan.
I'd agree with that.